I still believe in God. I know He's real. I know He exists. I know He loves me, but I haven't actually talked to Him in months, and I didn't even notice it was happening. There's a difference between believing in someone and actually being in a relationship with someone. And somewhere along the way, I crossed that line without realizing it. I became someone who believes in God, but I'm not actually in relationship with Him anymore. See, prayer used to be a conversation for me, not this formal, scheduled thing, just checking in throughout the day. Hey, God, I'm nervous about this. Hey, I'm so grateful right now. Hey, I don't understand what's happening, and I'm scared. It was simple. It was natural. It was constant. It was a real relationship where I could be myself without pretending. Then slowly, without me seeing it happen, it changed. I want to tell you exactly how, because I think this is the part you need to understand. It started with one day, just one. I was busy, life was moving fast, and I thought I'll pray tomorrow. Tomorrow came and I didn't. It wasn't intentional rebellion. I just forgot. One day became two. Two became a week. A week became a pattern so subtle I didn't even notice the shift happening. And here's what nobody tells you about habits dying. You don't get a moment where you realize it's gone. You don't wake up and think, oh, I've stopped praying now. Instead, you just start noticing that something feels different. God feels further away. Your faith feels less real. And your first instinct is to blame God. You think He's not answering you or He's not close to you, but you never connect it back to the fact that you stopped talking to Him. That's what I missed for months. I realized what was happening when I was going through something genuinely hard, something that would have sent me straight to prayer back when I was actually praying regularly, and I thought, I should pray about this. But the moment I thought it, I realized how long it had been. I was actually shocked. My voice felt weird when I tried to speak to God. It felt unused, like how your voice sounds when you haven't spoken to another person in days. And I felt almost embarrassed reaching out after all that time, like I was intruding on something sacred, like maybe I'd forfeited my right to just show up after being gone so long. And that's when it hit me. The relationship wasn't there anymore, not because God had withdrawn, but because I had stopped participating in it. That's a crucial difference. God didn't close the door, I just stopped knocking. The constant conversation had stopped. When you stop checking in with someone, they stop feeling like a person to you. They become an idea, a concept, a belief you hold in your head, but not an actual presence in your daily life. So I went back and started checking in again. And at first it felt so awkward, like calling a friend after not talking for a year. You don't know what to say. You feel rusty. You feel weird about all the time that's passed. But then something shifted. God came back into focus. Not because He moved or changed, but because I showed up in the conversation again, and I realized something that changed how I think about faith completely. Faith isn't just a one-time decision you make, and you're set forever. It's a daily relationship you have to actively maintain. Relationships don't stay alive on their own. They require presence. They require showing up. You can believe your best friend loves you intellectually, but if months go by without talking to them, they start to feel like a stranger. It's not that your belief in them changed. It's that the living connection faded. The intimacy died because there was no one feeding it. And that's exactly what happened to me with God. I stopped showing up. I stopped being present. And over time, the relationship weakened. Not because God disappeared, but because I was no longer participating in it. And here's what I think is happening with so many people right now. You still believe in God. You still identify as a person of faith. But you're not actually in an active relationship with Him because the communication stopped. Maybe you're busy and life just took over completely. Maybe you're hurt and you're protecting yourself by keeping distance. Maybe you decided that intellectual belief is enough and you don't need the daily checking in. Maybe you're waiting for God to prove Himself again before you show up. But here's what relationships actually require. They need both people choosing to show up. When you stop showing up in prayer, when you stop checking in, when you go silent, the intimacy fades. The presence feels distant. So if you're feeling far from God right now, I want to ask you something directly. When's the last time you actually checked in with Him? Not because you needed something urgent, not because you were in crisis mode, but just to be there, to say, I'm thinking about you, I want to talk. That's when something changes. Not because God moves towards you, but because you show up in the relationship. When you show up, the belief comes alive. It becomes a relationship instead of just an intellectual idea you hold in your mind. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, I pray all the time. I pray every day. And that's good. That matters. But I'm asking you something harder. When you pray, are you actually present? Or are you just saying words? Are you being vulnerable? Are you showing up as your true self? Or are you kind of performing a prayer? Because there's a real difference between praying and checking in. Praying can feel formal. Checking in feels intimate. And I think a lot of us are praying without actually checking in. We're going through the motions without being present, without expecting an answer, without actually participating in the relationship. And that's why we pray, but still feel far from God. We pray, but still feel alone. We pray, but faith still feels like a concept rather than a lived reality. Because words without presence isn't a relationship. So here's my question for you. Have you noticed this gap in your own life? Is there space between what you believe about God and how you're actually living? Because I think something deeper is happening here. Something that explains why the conversation dies and why it affects everything else about your faith. There's another layer to all of this, and it completely changed how I understand what went wrong in my own life. But I'm going to save that for the next video. Right now, I want you to sit with this one question. When was the last time you checked in with God? Not because you needed something, not because you were desperate, just because you wanted to be with Him. And if it's been a while, maybe that's where you start. In the next video, I'm going to show you why this happens so gradually that most of us never even notice it. Why we drift without seeing the drift. Subscribe so you don't miss it, because I think what comes next might change everything.